Hello YouTube, this is Ben Gussel. This video is actually going to be, today is Sunday, 11:08 p.m., May 21st. This video is going to be called, it's basically attitudes in the arts, specifically music. Attitudes that I don't like. Attitudes that some of them I loathe. So, I'm going to approach this kind of from a standpoint of kind of genre by genre with music. Get into I'll mention some things I like, but it's really some things I don't care for, and why. And I won't pull any punches, but some names will be named, but don't worry, they are very well deserving of this. So let's start out with classical music, and I will be somewhat forgiving of classical music especially. And for the most part, we're talking about people that really don't make millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. We're not talking about people like that. We're talking about people that at most make 6 figures per year. And I guess film scoring is a little different deal, so it's a little different deal again. But we're talking about people that actually, for the most part, aren't really that wealthy. So, just from that standpoint alone, I really can't. I don't feel the need to really call out anybody or anybody in particular, because why? Well, okay. So there's a lot of things to talk about with classical music. For one, okay, let's just specify what we're talking about here. We're talking about music that's very artistically refined and intellectually refined, and called serious music or art music from Europe, and the other areas of other areas of the world have their classical music as well. East Asia actually has its own traditional serious art music, as well as India, and there's a few other places that also have their traditions, I'm sure, like Iran and things, but we're talking about Eurasia mainly with classical music, whether it's Europe or something from the East, mainly, primarily. And if it's Latin America, it's probably a connection with Europe as well. And then there's world music and folk music that applies to every place in the world as well. So, the attitudes that many people don't like that are related to classical music actually are attitudes that were fostered in Europe in earlier times. Like the opera prima donna thing, right? When the orchestra started to kind of form, for instance, in the later end of the 1700s and early 1800s, that sort of time period, started having all the way that the orchestra was, and started to have all these we'll say customs and things that became etiquette, and concert etiquette and orchestral etiquette and performing etiquette. It all goes back to Europe, and some cultures were very receptive of those norms. Like East Asia was very quick to understand these kinds of things when they became more familiar with Western orchestra idea. And, now classical music is very much everywhere, but especially East Asia and Europe and the Americas, and it's everywhere. But really, orchestra, like, it's no longer just seen as a European thing. Of course, it's everywhere. But again, in that later 1900s, when a lot of Asians really became more familiar with Western art music, that whole thing changed a bit. But in a nutshell, I'm talking about attitudes that I don't like. It's easy to say. I don't like the fact that an orchestra it's a very it's like colleges, the way colleges are, music programs and things. The way these are institutions that are very slow to change, and are riddled with red tape, but politics and egos and arrogance, and there's some really that bad vibes that sometimes come up from time to time, and that's the classical music world. But these are very, very these are among the finest musicians anywhere, and we work. I include myself in this number. We work really, really hard, whatever we do. Like, I'm a composer and a hornist, and I also play piano on the side as well. Teach all those things, and but some people are just doing one thing, like one instrument, or just performance, or just composition. But whatever it is, it's a big deal for us. And when you hear the word like integrity, musical integrity, this is kind of a classical term. When you hear concerto and symphony and sonata and form and theory, music theory, these are all very associated with classical music, with academic music. Not entirely, but so as far as attitudes, I don't like. I don't like. Of course, I don't like the arrogance that is very apparent with many musicians. I've never liked that, but it's saturated. I mean, the classical world is just drenched in this, acceptance of a sort of arrogance that, I don't know. People accept it because we hear great music from these musicians. But that I can mention more about that as we go. But it's not too different from, say, the world of law, business, or many other kinds of things like that, where you have, we'll say, institutions where you have this brown-nosing idea, or you have the people that seem to figure out how things work the best, and they do well, and people that don't. And that definitely applies to a lot of institutions in classical music, for sure. But it's a lot more, again, associated with the academic world, colleges and everything. Okay, more on that in a bit. Attitudes that I don't like in jazz. Well, I'm not as familiar with the jazz kinds of things, but jazz has definitely changed a lot over time. It has changed a lot. There was a time when it used to be a lot more informal and just bands formed, and they just played. Sometimes they played dance music. Sometimes they played something a little different. There's all these little things that came into jazz, and but you know, it's kind of it's considered popular, but I mean, it's not classical music, but um, it, jazz is very different than pop, but it is part of all those other types of music that like a term would be popular. But jazz has become very also associated with education and music programs and institutions and colleges, and so jazz is a big part of all that now. And because you've had this progression from informal settings and bands to very formal, um, that's what happened to jazz. And for better or for worse, most would probably say better. It's a good thing. But it's not just New Orleans, Afro Americans, and some European guys that help out with whatever. It's not like Benny Goodman, and it's not just whatever. It's not the Roaring Twenties anymore. It's far from that hot stuff. It's not just blues again, and it's gone through all these evolutions and things, and I honestly don't dislike anything as far as attitudes about jazz. It's just very different. Jazz is a combination of European and African cultures and norms and things, and so it's extremely apparent to me. It's always been this ever since I can, for a long, long time, at least since my teens. African cultures just tend to not be quite as nitpicky and formal as European ones, and so that's one of the reasons why jazz is the way it is. It's nice. You don't have to feel like it's not this strict protocol you have to follow. Yes and no. I mean, the more that jazz has developed into whatever, then it's become something a little different. But you still have just the idea of bands, and that being said, so I don't have a whole lot to mention about jazz. But again, jazz has some more structure now, and you look at guys like Buddy Rich, and the nice thing about jazz is it's a little bit more straightforward. It's less confusing, etiquette-wise, than sometimes in classical music. But it can be. I don't know. Anyway, there are things that still aren't quite right about some of the way things are done. But on that note, you probably want to hear that from a jazz musician. So, with rock, this is getting more into some of the different train of thought here. I suppose, though, I can say this just at the offset. Heavy metal, its main problem is just that it's often very evil, of course. And so attitudes that I don't like, of course, would have to do with trying to avoid things that are evil. Right? Obviously, it's the same thing with certain kinds of rap. We all know this. However, there are certain kinds of music in that, now getting into this rock pop area, that I might even dislike more because they're more subtle than this obvious dark death metal thing. You would listen to it briefly and like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's different than even some hard rock. Even some music is straight up just aggressive or brutalizing, we'll call it. All right. Okay. So, all right. Well, I don't know. I can mention a lot more about that kind of thing. Again, any attitudes there are just having to do with just avoiding evil. So, okay. So, a gentleman who owns this house, my landlord, lives here. He was watching the MTV Music Awards today. and this is popular music. And so, of course, we saw, and I will mention this person specifically, Nicki Minaj, do her thing. Yes, she's been one of the judges on American Idol. Yes, there are a lot of judges, but I don't care for as much, character-wise. Some more than others. Some maybe I think of a little bit better over time, or I understand better. Okay, I'll put it this way, and this applies primarily to pop rock, pop, and obviously heavy metal and rap, of course. That's saying. Classic rock or hard rock, yeah, a little bit different, but and then also anything similar to that stuff. I might include maybe a little bit of modern rock country or pop country, modern. Okay, what I have to say, maybe there's some other types of music this applies to as well. When you have a singer, right? Don't just think I'm talking about Elvis here. Yeah, but yes and no. When you have a singer who makes explicit sexual dance moves, when you have a singer like that, well, what's the song about? Well, the song is about having sex. No ifs, ands, or buts. So, I don't know, you have to ask yourself, what are my standards in this area of life? And what am I going to do and what am I not? And why? And what's right and wrong? What is right and wrong? Everybody should know what's right and wrong, even if what they're going to do, what they're not going to do is not quite the same as what they know is right or wrong. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, it's a glorification of sex. It's like, gosh, if we discover some new type of fruit that was in Africa or something, and we all wanted to taste it. It's so good. Hey, something like that. I think it's called miracle fruit. And yeah, so that we see advertisements on TV. Yeah, awesome. Milk. So, we see these things and we think, oh, I want it. And that's a fruit. That's just something that you would eat. You already have the desire to have sex. It's built in. It's not like you need something on TV to reinforce that desire. So you're seeing something that has infinitely more ramifications spiritually. Or if you don't believe that, it's a lot bigger part of life in terms of what's going to bring you happiness or sadness in life. If you don't believe that, it's just a little bit weightier matter, to say the least, than some fruit you want to try. And so, you have, well, what are you going to do when you obviously not going to just want to have sex because you're seeing a video that's suggestive, but that thought is going to stay in your mind, along with all the other things. The more music you see, the more you're involved with things that, suggest just wanting to do what you want to do. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But why would you want to keep reinforcing that if you want to just keep that kind of thing in a certain area? You know, certain area of life. Whatever your standards are. I mean, like, whatever. Sex is like a river. Is that river gonna go to the ocean like it should? Or is it gonna, or are you gonna use it to irrigate a farm, or is it gonna just go all over the map and wherever? I feel like I'm in church here, but it was nasty. It was on TV for everyone to see. And someone said, you could say, oh man, we've had all kinds of people saying about all this stuff for a long time. Yeah, I'm not excusing any of those other folks. They're all equally guilty. I mean, to the extent that they were suggesting to dwell on sex. People that defend that stuff, they're defending pornography. It's as simple as that. You could say, some people have a lot of fondness for some of these singers. Now, that's a brutal blow when you have someone that you're very fond of that sing something really vulgar like that. Well, Wagner was a womanizer, and so was Liszt. And many classical composers, we know this, obviously. Of course, and that's why I don't respect them as much as people, as much as certain other composers. And yeah, I take all that into account. When I play some music, I know it's darker just because of the composer that wrote it. Classical composers aren't necessarily more refined in a spiritual sense than other folks, but they often tend to be. It just depends on the composer. And, you try to not dwell on things, I suppose, about people that made many bad choices in life. But this just happened. And, I mean, it was so blatant that it makes Beyonce look like, well, I wouldn't say angel, but I'll notice the whole facial changing things that were going on, and the rumors of whatever, demonic, whatever kinds of things that happened to Beyonce at that Super Bowl. This was quite some time ago. Right? It's all on YouTube. She doesn't feel too thrilled about it either. Whatever was going on was pretty crazy, and it's worth watching just to see what I'm talking about. But I mean, obviously with some of the dancing was not good. Nicki might as well, but she might as well been having sex on stage. Really, I mean, Mick Jagger didn't have anything on her. Mick Jagger is about as blunt as one can be, without actually. So there's Madonna. Miley Cyrus. Pop rock is worthless. It is worthless. And there are some singers that make some okay songs to listen to. The worthless stuff, though, is the more recent stuff. The farther back you go, the better it gets, in general. Not just morally, but also in terms of the nature of the music. More or less. You have exceptions. Of course, you have people like Marvin Gaye who were suggesting, it was kind of along the lines of the hippie era anyway. But again, Minaj was so much more explicit than Marvin would ever be. Marvin's been pretty explicit, especially in one song. But even he wasn't as... He didn't go where... And then, I probably, as far as rap and hip-hop, I probably heard probably less than a tenth of all the stuff out there, because it's just a lot of independent artists, right? And a lot of folks don't even sing about sex, so... But that's gosh, whatever I have to say about classical music, it just doesn't hold a candle now to this stuff, this crap. Someone could sing about demons, and it might even be more pleasant than having to wade through all that stuff. Because again, I would think, as most human beings want to have those kinds of relations at some point, and many of us are trying to save those kinds of experiences for someone special, and this cred is fighting. It is not something that helps in that arena at all. In fact, it's one more thing among many other things that is telling people, all of us, to do what we want to do, and it's okay. But hey, why pick on Nikki? Why pick on her? There's so many other people that maybe been even more explicit in the past. What do I know? I'm not an expert in pop music. Well, it doesn't change anything. It's still bad. Like you mentioned, attitudes, I don't like it. I mean, actually, when it comes to real country music, which is old, those guys are essentially angelic. We'll just say Johnny Cash was among his best, as good as they come. Even if you don't like country music, they were actually pretty awesome guys. I don't care, I know some of them drank a lot. Maybe some of them weren't quite the people we thought they were. Johnny Cash was awesome. He was a good guy. And the music was kind of sometimes repetitive and dull, of course. There's also, you have all the film composers, and you have the easy listening and new age, and you have Celtic music, and you have folk music, and you have world music, and you have everything else, avant-garde jazz, and dance music, and holiday music, and sacred music, of course, which goes without saying that people that write sacred music are probably going to be pretty awesome character-wise. So, just to sum this video up, the main things that I dislike in music, I dislike the stodginess, and stuffiness, and arrogance, and all that stuff. It's still in academia and class music, but that is dwarfed by the sheer evil that is in a lot of pop rock and other music. But I'm looking at pop rock because that's the stuff that for every person that listens to death metal or black metal, whatever you call it, every one person, there are 2 people that listen to rap, 2 or 3, and probably about 100, at least, not more, that listen to pop rock stuff. That's what people listen. That's on the radio. Turn on the radio. What are your radio stations? You have probably one jazz station if you're lucky. You probably won't have a classical station. You might have one if you're really lucky. We have one in Seattle, 98.1. You'll have a Christian station or 2. Christian, right? I can explain why I'm doing that parentheses thing, but. And then you have a country station or 2, probably 3. You have a Mexican station, maybe in certain places in the west, southwest. Rest, you're gonna have you actually will have a few hard rock stations, and you'll have one or two hip hop rap stations at least. All the rest are pop. You might have a soft rock, oldies, maybe soft rock, but all the rest of them are top 40 pop. They're going to have the biggest bandwidth, or biggest antennas they use, biggest reception, largest base of listeners, the most people trying to advertise with them. And radio is kind of on the way out. Kind of. Just traditional radio. I mean, not entirely, but it's all these other things we can do now with music. So that's my rant. So Nikki, no, I'm not a fan of you. No. Don't want to have anything to do with you. None. And there's probably other people in the industry that you work in that, no, I don't want to have anything to do with either. If there's anybody with real character in Hollywood, okay. But not Minaj. Okay. You can ask me what I think about Justin Bieber or Eminem or all those other folks. It varies. If I feel like Justin Bieber is just kind of really dumb and immature, and Nicki Minaj is close to Madonna, I could mention people that I have even a stronger aversion to than Nicki, of course. I can mention that Kanye West is kind of a little bit of a dolt. I mean, DOLT. He's kind of, yeah, but he's okay. He's okay. He's kind of, he puts his foot in his mouth. That's about it, right? Eminem is actually pretty cool, but he's intense. Okay, because yeah. So I cut him a lot of slack, but I know that he's, well, I'll let him figure out whatever. But I'm not really wanting to get on his case because I kind of know. Yeah, if you see 8 Mile, at least you'll, probably there's a good chance you won't think of him in quite the same way as you see a lot of these other pop folks. He's not like that, of course. Even though maybe he's not the cleanest cut guy, or he's not the guy, first guy that I think of when you think of people that are, I don't know, more upstanding. I don't know. Whatever that means, so. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds. What do I think of Justin Timberlake? Wow. Not really crazy about it. Maybe I think better of him than Minaj. Maybe not. Maybe he's not really that great of a guy. Money corrupts, and when you're earning hundreds of millions of dollars, yeah, I think you can be corrupted. I think if I met Justin Timberlake one of these days, next life, sure, I'd be polite to him. Would I respect him? From what I know about him? Not too much. Maybe I'd have more respect for him than, because I have no respect for Mick Jagger. Minaj, no. Maybe I might have a little bit of respect for him, but maybe he's done things I don't know about. Really bad. We don't even need to talk about the Illuminati thing. I mean, that's verdict out still, but doesn't look good. One more thing for him. You name the artist, I'll tell you what I think of them. But there's a lot of folks that have a lot of answering to do to God. It's God that we all need to answer to, not each other. Yes, 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 but and this is the last thing I'm going to say on this. This is the last thing. It's God, is this God, that needs to be what he needs to be part of the equation. He needs to be part of the equation, and if he's not, I mean, I don't know. If you're an atheist, I understand. Just don't forget about the fact that if you don't understand everything, you don't understand sex fully. You might think you do, but you don't. Don't forget about the fact that there are things that could happen down the road, even after you're dead. You're still alive. You still exist. Things that you don't want to experience at all. Don't forget about that fact, whether or not you believe in God or not. So, Anaj, take your filthy videos, take them off there, throw them in the ocean, get your stinking filthy hide out of my face. You and every single other artist making that crap. You call me a hypocrite for liking music of Wagner or Liszt. Okay. But at least they didn't put their music, that crap in their music. So you could play it without feeling like a filthy scumbag. I hope I'm making it through to you guys. On some level, at least. Leave me your thoughts and comments below.